Hello, Daytime Emmy fans. Daniel Montgomery here with Tony Ruiz, our Gold Derby editor, and we are talking about the Daytime Emmy reels in the acting categories, which decide the winners. And they were already decided by the blue ribbon panels that decided the nominees. Once the nominees were decided, the winner was already among them. There was no second round of voting. In the race for Best Younger Actress, which we will be discussing now, the nominees are Rain Edwards, The Bold and the Beautiful, Chloe Lanier, General Hospital, Olivia Rose Keegan, Days of Our Lives, Hayley Erin, General Hospital, and Kate Fairbanks, The Young and the Restless. Now, we are both predicting the same winner in this category, but we both think it's pretty close between two contenders. One of them is Rain Edwards, The Bold and Beautiful. She's the one we're both predicting to win at the moment. Tell us about her reel and why you think it's the potential winner.
Well, this is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Rain Edwards' third nomination, I believe.
Third in a row, yeah.
And she submitted a storyline that involved her having, she has a sister who is transgender, and Nicole carried a child for her sister, and has started to have second thoughts. The child has been raised by her sister and her husband, but there's a glitch in the adoption paperwork, and now she's wondering if this is her only chance to ever have a child, particularly after she gets some news in the beginning of the reel that points to her possibly having problems with infertility. It builds up to a kind of a climax where she has to decide whether to actually sign the adoption papers and let her child go, or to raise it as her own. And it's just one of the things that I loved about this reel is that it's such a complete story from start to finish. You don't need to be a regular viewer of The Bold and the Beautiful you jump in at the beginning of the storyline where she finds out she might have infertility issues, and it ends with her ultimately deciding not to take the baby away from her sister. And in between, you get her whole range of her doubt and her fear, and it's really, really just a powerful performance from somebody who's given really, really good performances over and over again. And so I really just felt like, with this beginning to end story that anybody could easily follow, and she's so kind of sympathetic and has, a really nice catharsis at the end. I feel like she's in a really strong position, but not unbeatable.
Yeah, I loved this reel when I watched it. It's such a complete story that she submitted, and the emotional impact of her scenes, especially her scene with her sister, and really the whole family is there, but it's really the emotional thrust is between her and her sister. The fact that they are at odds in a sense, and yet so fully supportive of each other, and that the decision is going to be heartbreaking no matter what. It's so powerful watching those two actresses together, Rain Edwards and Carla Mosley, who plays her sister. It's so good, and the very end of the scene where she signs over the child officially to make the adoption official to her sister. It's such a moment. It's such a catharsis, and that's one thing I love about this reel, and I think makes a great reel. I'm interested in actually thinking about the reels that have a payoff. An emotional payoff, as opposed to just having and then a last scene that kind of ends. This has a payoff, an emotional payoff that it was building up for the entire reel, and she makes this selfless choice. This beautiful line at the end where she says, "You were always her mother." It's just a fantastic reel, I think. But like you said, not necessarily unbeatable. I thought Rain Edwards was going to win last year for the reels she submitted last year, and she was beaten by Lexi Ainsworth from General Hospital, not in contention this year. But Rain Edwards does have to worry about another woman from General Hospital, and that's Hayley Erin. Tell us about her.
Hayley Erin plays Kiki Jerome, and the reel all surrounds the her mother, Ava, played by Best Actress nominee Maura West, who has been horribly, horribly burned in a fire. And the two of them have a very complicated relationship, and Kiki has to deal with the fact that she is now in charge of making life and death decisions for her mother's care, particularly after her mother has done some pretty terrible things that Kiki's not sure she can forgive her for. And the reel is really about her struggling with that and then struggling with her own guilt. One of the things that Ava has done is messing with the medication of Kiki's ex-boyfriend, Morgan, which inadvertently led to his death. And so she has a hard time dealing with that. She feels responsible herself. And the reel ends with her having, after spending much of the reel refusing to go see Ava, she goes to see her, and Ava asks Kiki to honor a do not resuscitate order that she has signed. So the thing about Hayley Erin is that it's again, it's a very intense reel. It's very, very powerful in terms of her conflicting feelings. She gets a lot of scenes, particularly with Maurice Bernard and Maura West, two real powerhouses in daytime, and she more than holds her own. The only thing that makes me hesitate about her reel is the scenes really are very short, and they never allow her to really have that kind of big payoff moment that Rain Edwards has on her reel. I think Hayley Erin is really competitive here, and I feel like she's just missing just such a little bit that would maybe put her over Edwards.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, throughout her reel, I kept getting the feeling of the reel building to something that it doesn't quite get to, and not because of Erin's performance, but because it's almost like I was waiting for the performance, for that dialogue, for that tirade, for that breakdown, or that catharsis that Rain Edwards has. I was waiting for that with Hayley Erin, and I thought she was going to get it in the last scene of her reel with her mother, who has a do not resuscitate order. I almost wanted to write that scene where she is both heartbroken by her mother's decision and also furious that her mother has put her in that position. Like, she has committed all these crimes and she's just going to cut and run by dying. I could have seen, Kiki being very angry about that. So I wanted her to get that kind of juicy steak of a scene to sink her teeth into. And it doesn't quite have that same level that Rain Edwards has for me. But yeah, I agree. I can, if the voters go for this, I won't be really all that surprised. But I think she could be better served by these particular scenes. And there are three other actresses in this race. We've got Kate Fairbanks, Chloe Lanier, and Olivia Rose Keegan. Let's talk a little bit about Keegan from Days of Our Lives. Her scene, like Lucas Adams in the younger actor race, they're edited in an order that is not chronological, so it's a little difficult to follow. It involves the release of a sex tape, and her friends and family think she is cynical enough to have released it herself, but she didn't. And she's furious and heartbroken about the people who don't believe her. The out of order quality doesn't quite work for me in this reel. It's a little confusing to follow, and also I do feel like it's a little bit kind of on one level of emotion that doesn't really give her that much to play other than kind of petulant. What did you think about that performance?
I think I liked it better than you did, mostly because once I figured out what the actual order was, what the chronological order was, I could see, oh, okay, so she starts off, denying that she released the sex tape because her boyfriend doesn't believe her that she didn't release it, and then she has to deal with her confronting the person who actually did release it and her anger at that, and then talking to her family, and then ultimately breaking up with her boyfriend for not believing her in the first place. And I felt like that arc would have been so much better served if the reel had been in order. And I don't understand why it wasn't. But overall, I thought she was. I thought she was very good, particularly when she really just unloads on the girl that actually did it. Those kinds of scenes are just like Emmy gold. They love the angry, I'm going to call you a bitch and I'm going to call you unlikable and nobody will ever like you. Nobody ever really liked you. It's so brutal. I just really wish that reel had been in order because I think it would have done her a lot more favors.
And then you've got Kate Fairbanks. She submitted a pair of scenes opposite Cameron Grimes, who's nominated for Best Supporting Actress and who has previously won Best Younger Actress back when she was 10 years old, 18 years ago. She's actually the youngest acting winner at the Daytime Emmys in history. So Kate Fairbanks, but this is a love story between Kate Fairbanks and Cameron Grimes. They are kind of struggling with their feelings of love and attraction to each other, even though they're both in relationships with men. And actually, Kate Fairbanks is in a relationship with Cameron Grimes' brother on the show. So that complicates things a bit. Here's a performance I liked better than you did. I think it's really touching and tender and subtle, but I think it's subtle to a fault in the sense that it's really Cameron Grimes' reel and her showcase. She gets most of the dialogue, she gets most of the emotional fireworks, and actually the second half of Kate Fairbanks' reel is the same scene that Cameron Grimes submitted in her category. So what did you think about Fairbanks?
Yeah, and that's entirely why I think Fairbanks is lovely in that reel. The problem is she doesn't do enough, I don't think. Particularly when the emotional weight, particularly in that last scene, is from Grimes, because Grimes is the one really carrying the load on that scene, and Fairbanks is mostly just reacting. And I think it's a great performance. I think it's a great reel for Grimes, which I think is why Grimes submitted it. And I just feel like there wasn't enough there to make it as competitive as it could be.
And then rounding out the category is Chloe Lanier. She is nominated for the second year in a row for General Hospital. She submitted a variety of scenes involving she pretended to sleep with Sonny Corinthos to get revenge against Carly for Carly's adoptive father, who is, I'm trying here. Okay. Carly's adoptive.
There'll be a quiz later.
Yeah. Nell, who Chloe Lanier plays, her father, biological father, it was Carly's adoptive father. He took one of Nell's kidneys to give to Carly's daughter when she had a medical problem. Apparently against Nell's will, took this kidney, and Nell is hell-bent on revenge. And then eventually, though, she's in a relationship with Carly's son, Michael, and becomes pregnant with his child and threatens to leave town if they don't set her up for life, make her financially comfortable. And then in the last scene, she is being accused of murder, and she is really heartbroken that Michael doesn't believe her, or is reluctant to believe her. It's kind of a confusing reel, to say the least. There's a lot going on, and there are a lot of emotional fireworks in it. It's just not as easy to follow and not as cohesive storyline. I don't think it's kind of gonna do the trick.
And I think one of the problems is, first of all, you're right about the confusing part. Before you said that, I had forgotten about the whole her being accused of murder thing when she was talking to Michael, because I was like, what are they upset about? Why is she upset? One of the problems I think that Lanier has is that Nell is such an unlikable character. And in that entire reel, all she's doing is, manipulating and scheming and blackmailing. And villains can win here. But usually villainous performances, particularly the daytime Emmys, they have to be big. They have to be, we're like, Sarah Brown, who originally played Carly, she knew how to be a villainess and be big about it. But whereas Lanier's whereas Nell is just kind of just constantly manipulating, and it never really goes to that great firework like performance that usually wins.
Yeah, the character doesn't quite have that delicious mustache twirling quality that you often like. We saw most recently Eileen Davidson win for Days of Our Lives Best Actress for playing a villainous role, but she was chewing that scenery and it was delicious for her and for us. And so now as the character has been written in these scenes is really more just on the level of petty. As opposed to just really extravagantly evil. So that's best younger actress. We're both predicting Rain Edwards, and we think Hayley Erin is really close behind, which means, of course, one of the other three will surely win. It's always dangerous when we agree about things.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining me, Tony, and thank you everyone for watching.